Okay, so we need to find the rate of change, and we have a bunch of fractions here, and what it might be easier to do is have our fractions, make sure they have common denominators. Okay, so I see we have a 3 as a denominator here. We have 2 as a denominator here. Here we just have whole numbers, and then here we have 2. So a common denominator between 2 and 3 would be 6. So let's just make sure we have 6 as our denominator. So for this top fraction here, to have 6 as our denominator, we need to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. So this will become 22 over 6. So we no longer have this. Let's do the same thing in the other fraction. Multiply the top and bottom by 2, and we have negative 4 over 6. So that's no longer here. All right, now the next two fractions, 2 is our denominator, and we need to multiply the top and the bottom by 3 so that we get 6. So times 5 by 3, and you get 15 over 6. Now this is no longer here. Multiply the top and bottom of 1/2 by 3, and you get 3 over 2. I'm sorry, not 3 over 2, 3 over 6. Because you're multiplying the top and bottom by 3. Now this is no longer here. Now for the next two numbers, right now, if we write it as a fraction, this would be negative 2 over 1, right? And you would have to multiply the top and the bottom by 6. So if you do that, you're going to get negative, it'd be negative 12 over 6. Negative 12 over 6 is the same thing as negative 2. So now this is gone. And do the same thing on the 5. Multiply, that's 5 over 1. So if you multiply the top and the bottom by 6, you're going to get 30 over 6. That's the same thing as 5. So now we don't have to worry about the 5 anymore. And the last two fractions, we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. So it'd be negative 27 over 6. Okay, multiply the top and bottom of negative 9 over 2 by 3. And then we're going to multiply the 15 over 2, top and bottom, by 3. 15 times 3 is 45, so it'd be 45 over 6. Okay, so now we should be able to figure out the change in y and compare it to the change in x. If you go from 22 over 6 to 15 over 6, you're going down 7 over 6. If you go from 15 over 6 to negative 12 over 6, you're going down 27 over 6. And then negative 12 over 6 down to negative 27. That'd be down 15 over 6. On the other side, if we go from negative 4 over 6 up to 3 over 6, you're going up 7 over 6. If you go from 3 over 6 to 30 over 6, you're going up 27 over 6. And then 30 over 6 up to 45 over 6 is 15 over 6. So now, if we take the change in y, negative 7 over 6, and then we divide by the change in x, which is 7 over 6, that would give us our slope. Okay, and you might write it like this, negative 7 over 6 over positive 7 over 6. Again, this divided by this. But I'm going to rewrite, but then if we're taking the top and dividing by the bottom, then I can just rewrite it as negative 7 over 6 divided by positive 7 over 6. And then from there, I can take the second fraction that I'm multiplying by, or that I'm dividing by, and instead of dividing, multiply by the reciprocal. And now when you multiply that, negative 7 times 6, you got to multiply across the top. That's negative 42. And then 6 times 7 is positive 42. And then negative 42 divided by positive 42 is negative 1. Negative 1 would be your slope. And even if you take negative 27 over 6 and divide by positive 27 over 6, that's negative 1. If you take this and divide by this, that would be negative 1.